I just want to jump into this and just tell you guys why we're doing this. There's three reasons. So one of the reasons is our children deserve a bright future. All of these babies, not one of them, depending on their zip code, their parents' last name, where they came from, when they came to this country, every single one of the children in our community deserve a great start. The second reason is that education truly does empower generations. It's one of the calling cards in the African American community. When slavery ended in 1865, all the things you would read about that period, the number one thing that we wanted was education, because it was the one thing legally that was held back from us. And there was another 100 years before we had the Civil Rights Act. So you're talking 300 years of really serious challenge of not being able to even strive for equity in this country. And it's something that many of us still hold very dear. And the last thing is, there is an early learning desert in South Madison. There are other pockets around Madison where there's an issue, but this is historically the seed of diversity in our community. It is actually the most diverse zip code in the state of Wisconsin, the 53713 zip code. You have almost 50% white families in the zip code, but then you have a mixture of everyone else. And there's no other zip code that has it like that. So we see the significance not just in the fact that there are not a lot of opportunities here for children. There's only one, what we call 5-star, really high-quality learning center, and that's Head Start. But they can only serve 30 kids full-time. So we have 2,027 children, according to the census, in this zip code who are under the age of 5. There are 700, according to 4C, that are going to some form of early learning. So that's a lot of kids who are not going to centers, and only 300 of those that are going to high-quality centers, but all of them have to leave the community. We know that education drives everything, which is why it's so important. It ensures that we have strong communities, that we have strong neighborhoods, strong businesses. These babies that we're working with right now will be the ones who will take over in the future, and it's an imperative that we actually prepare them right now. You can see we're not doing so good at that right now. These are the reading rates for children. Now, this is 2014 data. The test last year was a little messed up with all the infighting that's been going on in education. So it is 2 years old data, but it's still not much different now. But you can see how few of our children are reading at grade level. You can see the racial disparities. This is the work that our friends and partners at Ford Community Investments, who I'm going to say something about in a minute, but they did a race equity study and showed us that 75% of black children in 2011 were in poverty in this community compared to 6% of white children. A lot of that's driven by lack of access or opportunity that goes back generations, a generational cycle that we have to break. You can see what it's like statewide and what it's like around the country. We have a growth of children in the last 20 years of children in poverty in our school system, where literally 86% of African American children and almost 80% of Latino children are in poverty in our school system in Madison. And when you think about it, Madison is now a majority minority school system. I think it's just tipped over 50%. And so you think about that, the majority of the children you see are living in poverty in our community. And then you look at what happens with students not graduating on time. We still know we hover around that 50% for African American students. Latino students are much better. Unfortunately, as we've increased the stakes on testing, and I think we've removed some of the good things in education, we're seeing white children's performance actually decline as well. And here's what I broke this down to a school board member a while back who challenged me on the previous school that I was working on, but I told them that, when you think about how many of our children had started school in 9th grade, you look at that number up there, only half of those kids literally completed school, and of that, only 28% took the ACT. And the problem with that is, in the state of Wisconsin, if you want to go to a state school in Wisconsin, you have to take the ACT exam. So literally, very few kids decided that they were going to go to a 4-year school. Now, many people will point to Madison College. You guys, historically, Madison College is one of the better technical colleges in the country, but historically, they have very low graduation rates. Their rates are about 50%, a little higher than that for their 4-year transfer program. Still, a lot of our kids don't make it through that. But for their technical-based programs, it's around 25%. for African Americans completing those programs. Because again, you go back all the way to the skill challenges, we see it manifest itself no matter where they go. But then we talk about diversity in Madison. And I see Mark Richardson here, who helped launch the Workplace Diversity Summit when we worked together at the Urban League. Yeah, he knows this, that so few of our kids come out of school eligible for anything. That drives a lot of the lack of diversity that we see in everything in Madison. So we're targeting South Madison. You're sitting in it right now. You're actually on the edge of the Brams Neighborhood Association. No matter where our children are, they should not be struggling this bad. And I know there are a lot of good people that want to help. You can go for it. This is just a slide that shows how diverse the community really is, but also it has the lowest participation of young people in college, getting bachelor's degrees for adults, higher dropout rates in school, lower high school completion, marriage rates are lower. All the things that could drive poverty and the persistence of that shows up right here in this otherwise very dynamic community. And then this is what I told you earlier, but this is the South Madison. So there are 6 elementary schools that children in this community go to. It's all because of the busing programs of the 70s and 80s, that they could live across the street from each other and go all the way across town to 2 different elementary schools. That's another problem. But when you look at it, only 24 out of 211 black children in 2014, they took the test in the spring, tested at grade level. Only 16 out of 266 Latino children. And you look at Asian students and our white students in this community, there's higher poverty among them here too. You see the numbers are pretty drastically poor. So this is what we're dealing with. You can flip forward. So we decided we had to take a different strategic approach to address this issue, and we really needed to focus on what Depeche talked about and what Doug Nelson and others have really been pushing me and others on as a 2-generational approach to solve this problem. We know that our effort is to really empower and ensure that we have happy children in our community, but those children are raised by parents. And so it's imperative of us to actually focus on ensuring that the families are strong and that they actually are happy and successful as well. A lot of unsuccessful parents end up depressed. Depressed parents don't do the greatest job, even though they might want to, raising their children. And I can tell you the depression in our community runs higher than is statistically measured. And then third is healthy and resourceful neighborhoods. We didn't put that in our existing business plan. However, we're going to be asking the community here, we need a healthier grocery store. We need other things here to make sure that these kids are healthy. So this is just the beginning. You can click forward. So again, strong families and parenting, I want to impress that upon you. And when Lisa and I were in Maryland, what economics does and opportunity does for people. We lived in Prince George's County, Maryland. It is the wealthiest county for black people in America, and it is the only place where the wealth of African Americans exceeds that of whites. The achievement gap in our kids' schools, the black kids outperform the white kids in every one of our children's schools. Yes. And it's because poverty wasn't such a serious dynamic, nor was lack of opportunity, nor was the community telling them that they weren't worth something. So there's a lot of families here. People say, well, why do middle-class black children do poorly here too? Our community has done a disservice, and we're guilty of this too, of reinforcing upon our children that they can't make it here, that there's not a lot of open doors for them here, so we have to change that. So our mission is very clear. We're getting these babies ready for school. Some of my early childhood colleagues know that for many years it wasn't the thing to talk about. Preschool wasn't to get kids ready for school. It was really about to help them develop as human beings. But we have to take a different approach for our kids. We have to step in and help these families get these babies ready. So we've told our families, you give us a couple of years, you work with us, your baby's going to the top of the class when they start kindergarten and first grade. We're taking this 2-generation approach. We have some great partners in this room right now. Madison Children's Museum, I saw Deb step over here from her busy life over there. We're doing a new series we're launching with them on June 1st called Turning on Learning. This first one's going to focus on science. We got Dr. Basham Shakashiri, one of the foremost chemists in the world, who's going to do a wonderful presentation for the children there on their free family night. We're trying to get more families to go there And we talked, and I said, look, you guys are the only learning laboratory that's open year-round in this cold city. So the kids can go there and learn all the time. So we wanted to kick off this partnership, and then we're going to focus on math, and then we're going to focus on literacy in August. We have the Madison Public Library. I don't know if Jeanette was able to make it here, but we're working with a few people there where kids are going to participate in 1,000 Books by Kindergarten program right over here at the Goodman Library. Access Community Health, Ken Loving's been an awesome partner for us. They're going to do teeth screenings and different things for our kids right at the school. And then Breathe for Change. I saw Ilana stand up. She's here too. I saw you. She's we've been working with the Center for Healthy Minds, and they work together too. Center for Healthy Minds is going to do some research with us on mindfulness among our children, but we're going to actually work on the practice of it with Breathe for Change so our teachers and our children and our families understand and have some tools to get themselves through these tough times. And then Fountain of Life Church, Pastor G and Pastor Jackie, 4 community investments. Having Doug and Sally. Sally has been on me about doing this since I moved here. She's like, Kaleem, you got to think broader than just your buildings. And I'm like, Sally, I do, but I don't know how I'm going to do it in Madison. So she came over and asked me one day when I was trying to think through with suing them, how the heck do we save this school? She said, Kaleem, what if we bought the building for you? What would you do then? I'll wrap it up. What would you do then? And she said, I said, I'm starting at school. And so then we had people, Attic Angel stepped up with $100,000. Jim Kramer and Holly, or Jim Birkenstead and Holly Kramer stepped up and gave me my first 50 grand. CUNA gave me my first 5 grand just to get us started. I see Doug Nelson over here with BMO Harris, UW Health, MG&E, American Family. Joe Krupp and his wife came in. I didn't know who the heck was going to want to pay for an elevator. And he and his wife stepped up and did that right away. Diane Baldwin, Gordon Durst. We got so many people here. And then my mother's best friend's daughter, Judy McNeil, was the first donor. We are 675 away. We need scholarships for our kids. Our business model is very simple. Went around and looked at all these centers, Preschool, the arts, others were helpful in us thinking through this budget so we could figure out how do we serve poor kids in this expensive environment called early education. And we learned and said, look, if we don't have a facilities budget, the debt from leases or mortgages, we can take that money and put it into high-quality teachers that can give us, they can return the promise of getting babies ready because we can pay them and we can keep the rates below the median for families. And so far that has worked. So what we do is families get some money, most of them from the state, because their incomes are not that high. And then we provide scholarships to give them a little bit further and then the families pay the rest. And so far, we've had very few families struggle to pay, and those that are struggling to pay is because they're struggling to just live. And so we work with them. So we need your help in all these areas, you all. We still have naming opportunities for our facility. We still need funds for our operating costs because we're slowly ramping up our staffing and enrollment for the kids. We don't want to have a flood of children because it's no good to them for us to do that. So until we get to the point where our enrollment, tuition, and the amount we get in helps us stabilize our costs, we need the community to help us. Thanks.